Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
The price on pollution is the most efficient way to reduce carbon emissions.
A carbon tax hike, but with the rise comes protests and pushback.
This tax hike is coming at the worst possible time.
What the increase will cost you here in BC. Plus,
well, it is nature, but the community is really affected by it spiritually.
The race to save an orphaned orca stretches on, changing tactics and the hope to reunite. And
no, they're actually very expensive.
Red hot tickets. After years of anticipation, Canucks playoff tickets are going fast, but be ready to pay up.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Baneet Braich. We begin with a carbon tax increase today, and that's happened across Canada and here in BC, where it's administered by the provincial government. But as Joel Ballard reports, for some it feels like another hit, as they already face an affordability crunch.
In Hope, hundreds gathered in protest of the federal government's carbon tax increase. It has now climbed from $65 per ton to $80. At the pump, that means British Columbians will pay about 18 cents per litre of regular gas.
It's just another tax that we have to pay.
At this gas station in Vancouver, people were feeling the pain.
In BC, Vancouver, it's really very hard nowadays to live in because the prices are really high.
I'm getting by, but it is difficult. Yeah, everything's gone up so much.
The carbon tax applies to the purchase or use of fuel like gasoline, diesel, or propane. The federal government says it's a crucial tool.
The price on pollution is the most efficient way to reduce carbon emissions and to fight against the existential threat that is climate change, but to do so in a manner that is affordable for Canadians.
In BC, the province provides a credit to offset the impact of the tax. However, it's based on your income. Before the increase, a single person earning $39,115 or less would receive the max credit of $447 a year. That credit is reduced up until earnings of $61,465, when the credit is dropped to zero. Meanwhile, a family of four that earns up to $50,170 receives the full credit of $893.50. And if they earn more than $94,845, the credit again drops to zero. With the increase now in effect, both the amount you could receive and the thresholds have risen. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says the credit leaves too many out.
So totally normal middle-class British Columbian families who are already having a hard time keeping a roof over their head, feeding their family, won't see any money back from the provincial government in rebates.
Binda would like to see the tax scrapped, especially since many are already facing a cost of living crisis.
When it's minus 20 up in Prince George, folks don't have any other option other than to heat their homes, by and large, using natural gas. Most folks don't have the option of whether or not to drive their kids to hockey practice or drive themselves to work.
Right now, the province says about 65% of British Columbians are eligible for the credit, with a goal of reaching 80% of households by 2030. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
And federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also continued his long-time campaign against the carbon tax. He held a rally in Nanaimo today, calling to axe the tax.
This is not just a tax at the pump. It's a tax on your heat, a tax on your food, because if you tax the farmer who grows the food and the trucker who ships the food, you tax all who buy the food.
He says government policies have led to record numbers of Canadians visiting food banks. He's also discussed challenges including the cost of housing, crime, and the opioid crisis. Poilievre promised to end Trudeau's signature climate policy if elected. And the federal government has announced plans to launch a national school food program. It's committing $1 billion over 5 years to the initiative.
This is the first time, as we've heard from the federal government at this point, that they're really seeing the need for the middle class, the millennial families, young families, that these issues are really starting to strike everybody.
Breakfast Club Canada supports 300 schools in BC, about 1,700 children, and Con says the wait list is equally as long. And a committee created to improve relations between police and Vancouver's Black community has abruptly cut ties with the police board. The African Descent Advisory Committee was formed just over 2 years ago. But as Janella Hamilton reports, the group says they felt disrespected and dismissed.
To me, it was a lost opportunity.
Sadie Keene was co-chair of the Vancouver Police Department's African Descent Advisory Committee, a group that was formed in late 2021, made up of community leaders with lived experience.
They're scholars, they're doctors, lawyers, community activists.
But over its 2-year term with the VPD, the group says it has felt disrespected and undervalued.
We didn't and don't expect everything that we say and think are recommendations to be taken up and or taken forward. What we do expect in any situation that we're in is a level of decency and respect and to be treated with respect.
Ultimately, it reached a point where the committee felt it's necessary to cut ties with the Vancouver Police Board, which oversees the VPD. In a recent letter to the board, they say we can no longer wait for you and senior management of the force to get the fact that we can only have a safe community if we are committed to working together. This police reform advocate says not having the committee could be detrimental for the Black community.
That leaves the folks who are actually being targeted, the people who need to have their voices heard, left with no one to represent them.
It is insulting to have people engaged and involved when you have already made a judgment call.
The return of the VPD's School Officer Liaison program was also a critical moment for the committee. They were never given the chance to vote on the policy, despite allegedly being told they would be.
Even if we were generous, we would say that the board were just rude and their behavior is totally unacceptable.
CBC News reached out to the Vancouver Police Board. The executive director redirected us to the VPD for comment.
We value the relationship that we have had with the African Descent Advisory Committee. We'll be reaching out to them, speaking with them directly about the reasons behind their decision.
I really hope, though, that the police will take this opportunity to learn and to look at these incredible people who have decided to walk away from them and, reflect on that.
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
A controversial academic who contributed to a book questioning the harms of residential schools says she's been asked to travel to Quesnel to put questions to council this week. Now, she won't say who invited her or if she's being paid for her travel costs.
I don't really see why I have to justify my travel to Quesnel to people.
Frances Widdowson was a tenured professor who was fired from Mount Royal University in 2022. She made headlines 2 years earlier for criticizing the Black Lives Matter movement and saying there had been an educational benefit to residential schools.
It's about trying to undermine public confidence in the truth about residential schools, to try and slow the progress on truth and reconciliation.
Last month, Quesnel's mayor and council all denounced the book that Widdowson contributed to after it was revealed that the mayor's wife was handing it out copies to residents. And if you're an online shopper, you might be surprised the next time you walk down Granville Street. Fast fashion giant Shein is opening its first ever pop-up store in Vancouver, but not everyone is celebrating the event.
They hire folks for a really low amount of money, and often they're working in really poor conditions.
Shein has been criticized for promoting fast fashion, something that produces waste and high emissions as consumers are encouraged to buy new items with changing trends and seasons. The Vancouver pop-up will run from April 11th to 14th. And after a riveting season, the Vancouver Canucks are finally headed to the NHL playoffs. Tickets are now on sale for those games, but as Saurabh Sandhu reports, championship prices might be too expensive even for the most loyal fans.
Surrey resident Kevin Danchula describes himself as a hardcore Canucks fan. On Monday afternoon, he hunted for tickets to the first home playoff game.
Well, right now they're very expensive. Like I was just looking at my phone, and one of the tickets was like almost over $1,000.
The Canucks secured their playoff berth on Saturday, becoming the first Canadian team to make it.
It's great for the game. I think it's great for especially the young ones to experience playoff hockey, because I think that's where like real fans are made.
What's the cheapest ticket you can get me for November 8th?
Danchela's search brought him to Kingsley Bailey, who's a ticket reseller.
There is a lot of interest, but what's scaring people away are the prices.
Bailey says the tough economy is likely to have an impact on playoff ticket sales, which normally sells for a premium.
We're looking at the prices. We're looking at discretionary income shrinking. We're looking at all the grocery bills. We're looking at so many things that I truly see that it's going to affect discretionary spending.
Bailey says the longer the Canucks stay in the playoffs, the higher he expects ticket prices to go. And that could mean fans choose to watch fewer games.
What's happening is, in the past, being a ticket reseller for so many years, I would see customers buying one or two games, not just one game, 2 games in a round. Now they're going to pick one. And so that means we need more customers to sell the same amount of tickets. And the price is definitely making a difference.
The Canucks haven't hosted a playoff game since 2015. Although the team made it to playoffs in 2020, those games were played in a pandemic bubble. The Canucks currently lead the Pacific Division with 8 games to go before the Stanley Cup is on the line. Saurabh Sadhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
And Darius Madavi joins us now for a first look at the weather. Darius, what spring got in store for us now?
A bit of a change on the way, not as much sun this week. Still be quite sunny at times, but a pretty big system hitting the north and central coast right now. That's going to result in that rainfall warning there. Over here, just to the east of the Rockies, we have another storm system brewing. All that snow likely to stay confined to Alberta, but we may see a little bit of it break into the interior as well. You can see a little bit of precipitation here in central BC. We're also getting quite a bit here, but we just don't have radar coverage there. So if we switch to our model data instead, you can see that we have that pretty significant storm system coming in, going to continue to go, coming down to us here in the south coast tomorrow. But generally speaking, most of it will be staying further north.
All right, thanks, Darius. We'll catch up again soon. And an orca calf is still stranded in a Vancouver Island lagoon. More on how marine biologists are trying to rescue it after the break. And thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream. Transport Canada says as many as 1 in 5 vehicles in this country has an unresolved safety issue. A consumer advocate group points a finger at Transport Canada, saying it allows automakers to take as long as they want to complete recalls. Rosa Marcatelli has a Go Public report.
The fuel starvation may result in an unexpected loss of motive power, which can cause a vehicle to crash.
Michelle Ashenden got that urgent recall notice for their 2016 Dodge Ram 1500 way back in June 2022.
We never thought in a million years we'd be waiting this long.
Her husband, Vittorio Polcini, says the truck was too dangerous to drive.
It will just randomly shut off while driving, like 100% completely black.
The couple towed the truck to their local dealership and waited, racking up thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket costs for rental vehicles and more.
Well, I'm here.
Ashenden documented the wait and the deteriorating condition of the truck.
Been sitting here for an entire year almost, and there's no word of anything.
According to Transport Canada, up to 1 in 5 vehicles has an unresolved safety recall. It's not clear how many of those are because automakers don't have a fix. An expert blames a hole in Transport Canada rules that allows automakers to take as long as they want to complete recalls.
Transport Canada should be able to hold the manufacturer accountable. There should be consequences.
Transport Canada says each recall problem and the timeline for its solution are unique, so manufacturers must control the process to ensure vehicle safety. Stellantis manufactures and sells Ram trucks. It says recalls cannot be rushed, adding this particular one needed redesigned fuel system components that required engineering, validation, and more.
At first, the automaker said it won't be compensating the couple for their out-of-pocket costs,
saying they turned down an offer for a temporary fix that would have kept the truck on the road. It's not clear who said what when it comes to that offer. But after Go Public sent the automaker emails showing the dealership never delivered on it, things changed. Stellantis now says it's looking at reimbursement.
Money out of pocket, mistreated.
A permanent fix became available a month ago, too late for the couple. They traded the truck in at a different dealership. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
The effort to save a stranded young orca off Vancouver Island has become a race against time. The calf is not eating after its mother got trapped by a low tide and died. As Belle Puri shows, rescuers are turning to high tech to help.
The young whale circles and circles again. It's been more than a week since its mother died in this lagoon, and the calf can't seem to escape.
Well, it is nature, but the community is really affected by it spiritually, I think.
The Ahassit First Nation has named the orca Quisaheas, or Brave Little Hunter. Despite the name and seals in the area, the calf hasn't been seen hunting. It's not clear if it's eating at all. Rescuers have tried everything from indigenous drum beats to recorded whale calls to lure the orca to open water and to its pod mates.
That's really important that we're monitoring not only the calf, but also it's the calf's pod and the subpods that are family relations.
A BC-based whale research group says its artificial intelligence technology is already helping to find those relatives. It's been asking people to submit photos of orcas they see in the area and using AI to match those photos to an existing database of orcas.
After we made this technology available to operators working off the west coast of Vancouver Island yesterday, we immediately received a data submission from a new user of Quisaheas' extended family, including her grandmother, her aunts and uncles.
A whale-watching tour operator took these pictures and put them into the system and flagged to rescuers the direction the whales were traveling.
I was able to pass on my information to whale watchers in Tofino today as they were kind of headed that direction. Hopefully they were going to try and get some acoustics or some of the noises that the pod is making that could possibly assist with getting the calf out of the lagoon.
To do that, to get out of the lagoon, the calf will have to swim over a sandbar and under a causeway. The tides are expected to be more favorable this week. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
And on the other side of Vancouver Island, scientists are using emerging research to learn more about killer whales. It's less invasive and relies on DNA collected through seawater. Georgie Smythe shows us how it works.
There's so much life passing through these waters, and as scientists are finding out, even more to learn from what is left behind.
Got it? Okay.
That jug of seawater contains environmental DNA, or eDNA, scooped up behind a diving whale.
And essentially it's like CSI, pardon the pun, but CSI in the ocean. Through that collection of water, we can extract skin cells, fecal matter, and extract the DNA from that, never actually touching the animal, which we're really excited about.
The sample is filtered on the boat and later sent for genetic testing. It's the first time eDNA has been used to study whales here.
We know that we can sex individual whales. We can look at things like the amount of genetic diversity, how populations of whales are related. We can also potentially look at paternity.
Scientists know some of BC's killer whales are already under stress from lack of food, ship traffic and climate change. Traditional research would also call for a sample of tissue from the whale. This approach avoids that.
My greatest hope is that we cease all need to do biopsy work. I would love to see that we totally switch all of our methods of collecting DNA to be in these non-invasive eDNA samples, which will help the populations reduce disturbance.
This kind of whale research is still new, and part of the work is figuring out how to improve the science, standardizing how much seawater to scoop and when to make it more precise.
Knowing that what we're doing can eventually lead to better conservation efforts for the species, and whatever we can do to give back to them brings myself a lot of gratification, and really makes me love the work that we're doing, knowing that it can be used to make positive impact for these animals.
Work that is bridging the knowledge gap without getting too close. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Hornby Island.
So ahead, imagine drinking wine or beer without the hangover. We catch up with Vancouver businesses offering alcohol-free drinks and tell you why the demand for mocktails is growing. Next.
Davies making a push for the front. Max Davies just looks way too good right now.
Here he comes.
And that's another win for Max Davies from Guelph.
No good. Duke with the rebound, D14 for Laval.
Kelly III didn't do his homework on that one. Second chance opportunity, flash in the lane.
Duke starts it. Posterizing. Lacombe, watched by Denigan. Joseph in the paint. Dagger, potentially. On the night of the Oscars, no Hollywood producer would have believed this Laval script. But Nathan Gratt and his Rougier boys have produced a box office thriller as they are your national champions for 2024.
Noel can't keep it in. Austin Keating, long pass. Gilmore, breakaway. Gilmore scores! The 2024 UMD Reds will go down as the greatest youth sports team to ever play.
Chris Weeks is maintaining his edge from Memorial University, and he will hit the wall first in 23.90 to take the win for Memorial University in lane 4 as a first-year athlete. Big moment, sports record for Chris Weeks, taking out the record by Coleman Allen of 24.04 from back in 2015.
Can Greywall serve her way to back-to-back championships for UBC? Great diving play off the net. They keep going. No, it's over. UBC has gone back to back. They are champions.
Will.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On April 13th, join CBC at the Vancouver Vasaki Festival. Drop by the CBC Vancouver tent, say hi, and win some fun CBC prizes. The Vasaki Festival continues in Surrey on April 20th. The event features some of the biggest celebrations outside India with colorful floats, community performers, and live music, all rich in culture. More info at cbc.ca/BC.
All right, Darius Madavi joins us now with his bunny ears with another look at the weather. It's been a gorgeous long weekend of sunny skies. Darius, tell me, will it continue?
Yeah, the bunny ears make it sound like I have fun news, but not so much. I mean, a little bit of snow for the mountains as those freezing levels drop. That cooler weather comes in. Temperatures expected to drop anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees in the south over the next few days, depending on where you are. But generally speaking, still plenty of sun in the forecast. Really, the only place we're looking at significant precipitation is in this area on the inland parts of the Central Coast. Though, again, those temperatures are starting to come down over the next few days. Tomorrow, still very warm, although we have some cloud moving in the south. Then those temperatures get their big drop and still cool on Thursday before they start to come up again end of the week, maybe the weekend. Now, in terms of conditions for tomorrow, still relatively calm for the southern interior. A little bit of more activity over here on the coast. Again, this is when our big rainy day comes if you're on the south coast or Vancouver Island. But if we look at how much rain is actually going to be coming, it's still not looking too bad, with the exception of, again, the Central Coast here, where we might see around 50 millimeters. Everywhere else, though, some fairly minor accumulations. And if we zoom in here, you can see plenty of snow for the mountains because we do have those freezing levels dropping. So a little bit of good news there. In terms of a 5-day forecast, we do have quite overcast skies tomorrow with a rainy afternoon, possibly some showers Wednesday morning. But overall, I think it's a fun enough forecast that I could put on my bunny ears. Baneet.
I agree, and I'm sure the flowers can use some of that rain, hey?
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in less boozy beverages, Vancouver is raising the bar with non-alcoholic drinks. Now, we caught up with a few of the shops popping up on Vancouver's Commercial Drive. Check it out.
One of the few things that made me think I can quit alcohol really easily, because the quality has changed so dramatically, is the Oddbird Blanc de Blanc. My name is Doug Stephen. I'm one of the owners of the Drive Canteen, located at Commercial Drive in the heart of Vancouver's Little Italy. And this is our ode to convenience store culture with a massive side of non-alcoholic selection.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to try it. Thank you.
We opened November of 2021. When we launched, there was nothing on market. There was no physical stores to go get non-alcoholic. I'd have to go over here for this and over there for that. When my partner was pregnant with our son, had I grown up in a different time when there was all these great options, my relationship with alcohol may have been different, but inevitably it was a harmful one, and I'm really happy with where I'm at now, 3 years sober. That was one of the first things where I was just like, this is exactly like what I drank back in the day. Although we have a huge amount of the people who come through our doors who are a part of the sober community, we also have people who have a much healthier relationship with alcohol than I do, who just want to kind of fold something in just to keep it very tame and to try to match those Health Canada guidelines.
Canadians drink quite a lot, more around twice as much as the average person in the world. So that kind of like pegs our relationship, if you will, as a Canadian society with alcohol. In January of 2023, Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction came out with what's called Canada's Guidance on Alcohol and Health. So the main recommendation was Canadians should or could consider reducing their alcohol use, and then it put out different risk zones that people would fall in based on how many drinks they have.
We all know that alcohol is basically essentially poison in our bodies, right? And I think that that's part of the growing movement, is just that awareness of how it's affecting us, not just physically, but our mental health and our emotional health. I want to welcome you to Mocktails. It's the first exclusively non-alcoholic liquor store here in Vancouver, BC. We opened on March 15th. The feedback has been incredible. It's been nonstop busy. They're driving in from Richmond, and they're driving in from Tawasin, and someone came from the island, like Nanaimo. Like, people are excited. My relationship with alcohol had to change. And when I realized that I needed to change and I wanted to change, after many times of attempting to make that change, I literally just woke up one day and I was like, I'm done. And that's what got me. And like within a couple days, I was looking into these products and talking to other people that might have a troubled relationship with drinking as well, and asking them, like, would you want something like this? And everyone was like excited.
Even they're non-fruited.
Oh yeah, you like that one.
Yeah.
Love that.
When I look at Commercial Drive, there's such a great group of people in the neighborhood who are really interested in this. And more importantly, we think that if we can establish this area as your non-alcoholic destination, whether it's going to mocktails, coming to us, I think that it's only going to kind of emphasize that this is a really great neighborhood to go and see what's out there and what can be done.
And that is your late news for this Monday, April 1st. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Good night.